All right, we're 5 minutes after. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. And I've got all our commissioners, save Commissioner Bettis, are currently with us. She called and she has a meeting school board tonight, so she will join us here just as soon as she's off that. Okay, first order of business is a chairman's report, and again, I find myself asking for latitude from our board on this from time to time. I have a housekeeping item that I've been asked to see if we can go back and complete. We put out a bid and subsequently awarded a contract for the roof replacement on our old courthouse. The board approved a contract with Bone Dry Roofing, and the contract price was $218,650. What we failed to do is actually address how that was going to be paid for. And we talked about it loosely, but when we made our motion or whatever, we never really nailed that down. And our finance director is asking, we're looking to make a final payment on that contract. And before we make it, she just wants a little bit of guidance from the board. What we did talk about, and I believe we had concurrence from the board, is we had 2008 SPLOST that really needed to be spent. It needed to be spent because we had a June deadline being under contract with it, and those funds have been expended as it turns out. We also had 2014 SPLOST, and if you combine both of those, we have a $95,427 bill remaining. The question before you tonight, and I'm asking for just a kind of a consensus, if I can get this recorded in our minutes, it's just so that she'll know how this is to be paid, is the balance can be paid out of one of two places or two places. It can be all paid for under a line item, repair and maintenance line item for the old courthouse under buildings and grounds. Or it can be split between, there was money allotted for the 2020 SPLOST of $50,000. Using the formula that we've used for every other project, if we used all that was available to us under the 2020 SPLOST, the balance then that would need to come from our building and grounds department would be $47,000, roughly $48,000. If you choose to do that either way, what I'm going to ask is that the consensus be that we pay the balance, whatever that balance is, from either SPLOST and a set amount from SPLOST and the balance from our general fund, or the remaining balance on that project from our general fund. And the reason I say the remaining balance is, in the contract, it stated that there were a couple of areas that, depending on any damage or any unforeseen things, that it might alter that number. To date, we haven't had any, but they still have downspouts to put on, and that's the remaining portion. We've allowed for the purchase and the installation, except that they have a problem with anything, it should be the amount. But just to keep us from coming back and having to do this again. So I'd ask just for the consensus of the board to move forward with paying the remaining balance on this courthouse roof replacement project, either splitting between 2020 SPLOST and the general fund, or taking the entire remainder from the general fund. Does anybody have any problem? I'll put it out there this way first. Does anybody have any issue paying the $95,427,038 out of the general fund. If you don't have any problem with it, what that does afford the board over the next, actually it turns out to be next 11 years, is the expenditure of the 50,000 that was set aside and splossed. So that would still remain there for the courthouse.
Now, do you want the set dollar amount or the remaining balance?
When we do this, I'll reiterate that I mentioned the $95,427 balance as a target figure, but I would ask that whatever that balance ends up being coming from the general fund, if you want to cap it at 100,000 or whatever, that's fine. But whatever your pleasure is that number should be a good number, given no unforeseen additional expenses on that. We haven't been we've been told that it shouldn't be any different. So,
Well,
I'm good with the general fund.
but I said not, but we did set that 50,000 aside for the courthouse.
correct, for the courthouse.
So
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So you can use that now, or
I think that would be my preference, to use that money now and preserve general fund money. I mean, if we ever do, a next phase or reassess.
It's a lot more to be spent inside. It's falling apart.
Yeah, but
Didn't we have an amount budgeted
so you did.
for the courthouse?
Right, there's 50,000 that was set aside, and we understood that when this contract went out, the conversation that should have taken place was to identify specifically for the entire payment of this. We did not. We understood that the 08 SPLOST had to be spent, or we would have to return that. The 14 SPLOST closed out in July or June, end of June, the collection period. So we know that exact amount. So you have those two amounts. What we did is, in the 2020 SPLOST, there was 50,000 set aside. And at that time, the conversation was, you can pay whether they pay the difference from, the remaining balance out of general fund, we could do that. Or at this point, I'm just telling you, the money hasn't been spent from the 2020 SPLOST, and that's just the option you have in front of you right now, is where do you want the money to come from? And that's what we'll instruct our finance director to do. And like I said, we could take a vote on it if that helps anybody. But I just want you to be aware that if we don't do this now, the action that will take place without any determination by the board tonight is we will pay that from the general fund, and we'll have to make an amendment, or you can choose to pay from SPLOST to the general fund. It's just multiple actions that need to take place. I was just trying to get your a consensus, if you will, on where we might want that to come from.
Right. So we didn't have anything budgeted in the last budget for.
No, we did not.
Okay, that's what I was trying to understand.
The roof repair became a pressing issue before we could get to this round of the budget. So I have Commissioner Doster that would prefer to take the approximately 50,000, and it's the 50,000 less the finance cost, right? We agreed on all projects. Yeah. That amount ends up being $47,973.80. So,
And 90% of that, right?
if the board chooses to on that one, then that's, if you want to be consistent.
I think that's nickel and dime in there, but my preference would be to spend the 50,000 there, and that preserves general fund for either another emergency or additional work over as it proceeds. If we don't, that's just, we take it out of the general fund, and then then we're committed to doing something else at the courthouse, which I think needs to happen. I just think that conversation needs to be made holistically on what needs to be done over there.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would, I think that's the route to go, that Commissioner Doster had brought up. Go ahead and spend that. And then, like I said, we're going to have some money in the general fund, some extra money in there, in case, the future guys and gals need to spend any money on the courthouse, which I'm sure, you could even put that in the budget coming up. We hadn't voted on one yet, so you could always throw a little bit in there for them. But we've always taken care of the courthouse, so it looks like we're moving in the direction of really repairing it. So I say you go ahead and spend that $50,000, and then if you need some later, you can always just put it in the budget or take it out of the general fund then.
I'm agreeable to that.
Okay. I will, what I'll do then is with that direction, what I'll do is we'll take I'll leave it at this, the max we can from the 50,000, whatever that amount ends up being, whether it's the 90% plus the finance or whatever. You're right, the difference is going to be minimal on that. But I'll take the max extent we can from the 2020 SPLOST. The balance will be taken from the general fund. I will tell you that the one school of thought, and I don't want to sway the opinion or the discussion on this, but the one thing to consider on this is your general fund is not committed. Those funds are, so you got a lot more utility and a lot more use of your general fund than you do that SPLOST money. So there may be some merit in that. So is that okay? Okay. All right. I'll move with that then. Thank you very much. Okay. We don't have any hearings or actions, hearing and actions on zoning matters today. We'll move into statements and remarks from citizens on an agenda item. We have 3 items. We have consider amending section 50-34, 50-42, and 50-43 of our personnel policy. Under new business, we have discussed renewing a lease agreement with Polk Fire Department. And item number 6 is discuss abandoning and adopting roads. So with that, I'll open the floor for comment from citizens on these 3 items. What I'd ask for is that we keep our comments to 3 minutes, and just appreciate that while this is, these are agenda items that the board will be taking up, they are not necessarily obligated to offer any discussion from this. So don't feel offended with that. If they get to the item, if they choose to address questions that are brought up, then they'll certainly do that. But with that, I'll open the floor. Items 4, 5, and 6. Yes, sir.
Good evening to the board.
Good evening.
I'd like to talk about agenda item 4. Don't want to talk about the item itself as to the contents of whether it needs to be changed or shouldn't be changed. My concern is the timing of the change, or the timing of the consideration. I believe the citizens have just elected a new chairman. They just elected a new commissioner in District 1. They're fixing to elect a new commissioner in District 2. I think these new members should have an opportunity to address this particular issue and not get a change at this particular time. So I would ask that you consider holding off on taking this amendment or adjusting this amendment until the new board is put in place. I do have opinions of the personnel policy as to the changes you're considering to make, but I will not express those at this time. But I do believe that the timing is wrong to make these adjustments. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
Good evening. Along with what Mr. Scott just spoke upon, I'm not real clear on why this was even brought up. I think Madison County's operated this way for the past 12 years. I know after speaking with Chairman Dove the other day that this comes up yearly and it can be changed yearly. It just hasn't been over the past 12 years. And talking with some of the surrounding counties, friends of mine, which are chairmen in those counties, they also did not understand this because they said this was a double-edged sword. So I'm asking also for this not to be adopted yet until the new seats are filled. I think Mr. Allen's seat and Mr. Strickland's seat's going to change. And I think those guys should have an opinion on it. Topic 4, same way on topic 6, discussing abandonment roads. This is going to be for the future commission to do it this late in the game. I mean, I would think it would be a good discussion for everybody to be in, but I don't know that I would make any rulings before January 1st because the new commission seats and the chairman's seat may feel differently, and we don't really want to have to do things twice. Along with, one of the things I ran on was communication, and there was an email that went out Monday, Ms. Williams sent out for me, addressing this item 50-34, and it went to every commissioner, and I did not get a response from any. I was just curious as to what the thought process was to change it, and no commissioner responded back. My cell phone number was on there. Guys, that's not a real good way to start off communication and transparency, not responding back to the chairman or chairman-elect. I know, John, you would feel the same way. So on some of these items that may oppose to the future board, I would at least ask for communication for the incoming guys, Mr. Adams, and whether it be Mr. Scott or Mr. Strickland be considered in those future motions, please. Thank y'all.
Okay. Anybody else? And I don't want to forget, if we've got people on Zoom here too, we'll afford you that opportunity if you want to speak. All right, I'm not seeing anybody. We'll proceed and get into the business portion of the meeting. Item number 4 is to consider amending sections 50-34, 50-42, and 50-43 of the personnel policy. I'll open up the floor for discussion, or if the board would choose to go ahead and make a motion, they can get into the discussion that way. I'll defer. So with that, I'll turn the floor over to the commissioners.
I'll make a motion that we approve the personnel policy change.
Second. Now we can discuss.
Okay, so I have a motion to approve and a second. Those sections as they are presented in the document that was sent out. Is that correct? Are you making refer just to, if you want to talk about it and then either approve these, change these, or just want to get to the discussion here?
Oh, the motion was to approve as presented, and
Okay.
so, but we can make any adjustments we need to as far as.
I just want to be clear that's what
Yeah.
we were. Okay.
No, and I'll take that first opportunity to speak about it. I understand possibly there's concern, or if there's a question, maybe time, and I don't think it's a nefarious type situation. My concern, and I shared this with a couple of people I talked to, didn't get around to calling everybody back, but the short answer is I think there's safety in numbers. We don't have a professional manager doing day-to-day operations. I think the true hiring and firing of personnel in the city sometimes, or in the county, I think sometimes we need a legal opinion, and I think it serves a purpose to have a pause or communication. Like you said, we've communicated on different personnel decisions in the past, so I think it doesn't prevent. It's not my intent, and I don't think the policy states that the board take a day-to-day actions or day-to-day management of the county. I just think it's just on the hiring and firing. And, there's a comment in here on striking on the disciplinary actions, any action as deemed appropriate. To me, that may or may not be illegal, what one deems appropriate. So to me, it's cleanup. I think it provides safety in numbers. It's not an attempt to make anything, and like I said, any one way or the other. And I think when the new board gets set, the same, the communication effort would be there either way. And I mean, that's my feeling. I don't think it's an opportunity to have a hostile takeover or any form of that. I think, again, it's just safety in numbers, and we don't have professional, I'm an elected official. We have other elected officials, and sometimes we need paid professional staff to help make recommendations on certain things. And I think personnel policies are one of them. As well, everybody has an HR department. Those are the type of things. And I think it's just a better collaborative effort. That's my opinion.
I think the difference between this election and years before is there's been a lot of hype, a lot of talk about what's going on. You got a lot of nervous people, a lot of people that are afraid for their job, and that makes for a probably not the best working situation that you would want to step into.
So it's a protection move.
Hang on,
That's not
please.
talk. You need to learn how to run a meeting.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So, 21 board sees to reverse these, they can reverse it. If they see fit to do that, there's nothing they can't take back. But as far as communication goes, you need to call us. There's no, it's not you got my number, where we are, come see us.
Same you, but
So, yeah, well, you were the one asking, not us.
ask.
I don't get it, but anyway, it's just professional. It's professional. But I didn't, anyway. It's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I agree with Derek. I think that there is some safety in numbers, and this doesn't have any negative on the new board that's coming in, because the new board members, ever who they are, will be part of that group that is, doing the hiring or the firing or whatever else is there. I mean, everybody gets a vote and gets their input in that. And I agree that that it's something that should have been that way. I don't really understand, why it's not been that way. You got people elected from all the different districts. And I think that because we can then take what we have, our knowledge from our different areas, and we can make good decisions on those. This is still going to allow the chairman or whoever, the department, to say these are the candidates that we see as the proper ones that should be hired. They're going to be able to talk about the pluses and the minuses. And I think we can have a good working relationship. I don't see this as being adversarial, and I really don't appreciate somebody trying to make it adversarial, because I don't see it that way. And I see it as the new folks that's coming in, it's actually going to give them more input into it. One of the things that you see in government sometimes is some people like to be fully in charge of everything. And I think it's better that if we've got a wide array of opinions on things and we get input from a lot of folks, is much better. And I see this as policy as being sort of that way, where you've got more input into it than somebody just making a decision based on whatever they see fit. And then the board may have to deal with it later on, because if a chairman or a department head makes a bad decision, we sometimes may be blindsided or whatever. So that's the way I see it, but it's not adversarial at all, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Well, I guess I'll say something. This isn't a SCOTUS pick. This isn't a lifelong decision here. You know, this is something that can be changed by the next one. We have elections staggered every 2 years. Do we wait? You know, I'm a lame duck. I know I am, but I took an oath to go through the end of this year, and I'll continue to do that. This is something that I think should have been addressed before. We're getting to it now. If we would have got to it in the last meeting in December, my mind wouldn't have been changed. Like I said, this is my job, and that's my opinion. And like I said, I just I do apologize if you know, it wasn't my understanding that I would need to get back with someone, and if I didn't, I apologize. And always feel free to give me a call, leave me a message. If I don't give you a call, or if I don't get to you, I'll get you a call back. Always do. You can ask my citizens. So just want to make sure that that's clear. So, but I would like to go ahead and vote on this if we could, Chairman.
If there's no other discussion, we will proceed with the vote. I have a motion as it stands now. I have a motion and a second to approve as presented in that document, the attached document. With that, we'll start with Commissioner Allen.
Yes.
Yes.
Teresa.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Next item of business is to discuss renewing a lease agreement with the Pokie Volunteer Fire Department. Pokie currently has a station that is situated on county property, and for purposes of their planning and just wanting to move forward, they've approached, and while there has never been an issue as far as I'm aware of with that lease, they're nearing the end of the lease and have asked to extend. And in this case, their request, as it's in the lease agreement here, is to extend actually out to December 31st of 2070. So that's a 50-year lease. As with any other these leases, the parties have a right to terminate annually. So there's again, much like anything else here, it is just a planning tool for them. And a lot of times when they enter into financial agreements, whether it be for equipment, trucks, or what have you, if any of these documents were to be called into play, it benefits them to have that in place. So they're asking for that lease agreement. So with that, I'll entertain a motion on this lease agreement.
Well, this was for.
I make a motion that we,
I'm sorry. You're right. Pardon me, Commissioner Kirk. That was my bad. That was something that was just brought to us, so it was just discussion. So that's a good point of order. I appreciate that. What I will ask is that October 26th, it'll be an item for us to vote on then, okay? So, and if anybody has any questions or wants to take, look at the lease or whatever, you each have it, but we'll make that available to anybody that wants to look at that. So that was my bad. That was for discussion. Is there any comment or discussion from the commissioners on that?
I'd be happy to support it when it's appropriate. I think it gives them some stability and long-term planning efforts and whatnot. And I think 50 years is our maximum allowed, or
Well,
should be anyway.
Yeah, we can actually commit for 50 years between governments with a private entity like that. As long as we've got that option to terminate at the end of every calendar year, we're fine. So
What kind of acreage is there? Is that a microwave tower? Is that?
That's co-located with the tower.
Yeah, I read through it, and considering it's just the fire department, they're using it as their station, and it still allows us to use the tower if we so desire that we need to, and all that. I think it's a good working deal for the county and the fire department, and it gives them some options, and of course we still retain options that we have.
Well, very good. We'll pick that up for a vote at the next meeting then. Last business item on the agenda was to discuss abandoning and adopting roads. Many times we have requests that come into the county for the board to consider adopting a road for maintenance. Whether it be because of the circumstance. We do have a criteria that was established a few years ago in making that determination. When a road ceases to serve any public good, then it too should be considered for abandonment. So as to preserve the resources that are used in maintaining those roads. I can share with you that we have 4 roads that are listed, 4 roads or portions of roads that were identified to abandon. The county made no move to abandon those, except that citizens and property owners on those roads approached the county first to do that. So, and with adopting the same as the case here, we have 2 roads. The 2 roads that we're, and again, this is for discussion tonight, but the 2 roads that are being asked for the county to take under county maintenance, adopt them, if you will, are Wesley Chapel Drive and Fowler Freeman Lane. It's difficult sometimes to have people complain about roads and to know that it's a private drive and not be able to do something about it. We want to justify it sometimes and say that if you jeopardize or potentially jeopardize law enforcement or any public safety vehicle, fire truck or ambulance, that it might be in our best interest to do something with that road. And we've had vehicles turn over on some of these dirt roads because of the holes. I point to South Creek Drive as one that was taken in, I believe, 2 years ago. That was the case. When they fill it with water, you have no idea how deep they are. And so it is sometimes in the best interest of the county to go ahead and do that. These 2 roads, Fowler Freeman Lane, we have numerous frequent requests for that road. Wesley Chapel Drive, I believe there to be 6 individual properties on that road. The roads that we're looking to abandon are Andrew Adams Road, the sole property owner that has requested that we abandon the road. Ray O'Kelly Road is one of a number of connecting roads between Still O'Kelly and Coley Davis. 4 property owners now want that abandoned. These are primarily dump sites. If you travel them, you'll see that. A portion of O'Kelly Road. O'Kelly Road comes off of Highway 98. It intersects Short Seagraves and continues on, but it's that section that we have been asked to. And again, there are multiple roads that come off 98 that service those areas. We've checked with public safety and made sure that we're not depriving anybody of access to those areas. The last road was something that popped up about a week or 2 ago. And for those of you who remember 106, Highway 106 as it heads south, used to transition into Norwood. It just became Norwood. And then it would become North Avenue at some point. Hull Sanford Elementary School prompted a need for a better way to get traffic off of those roads into the school. So they brought in a more perpendicular approach, which is what you know of as Norwood right now. I can tell you I've always known it as Norwood, and I can tell you that I was wrong, and you are too if you called it Norwood. It was called Burrow-Smith Road. I had no idea. There's still a section of road that's abandoned that the state formally turned over to the county or made sure the county was aware of that it was a county road, and it's still known as Burrow-Smith Road. And it is that section that crosses that little piece of property in a kind of a triangular manner. It's the original 106 road. We have folks wanting to buy that property, sell and buy, and lo and behold, the county owns that road. I think it serves the greater good to let that go with property since we're not traversing it. And again, it's a very short section of road, but that was another road that was brought to us. So as with any road, any abandoned road, request to abandon or a request to adopt, this can be a simple process or it can be a drawn out process. We have voted to adopt roads before under the same circumstances, only to have a property owner change their mind. And those roads haven't been adopted, and they won't be. If it's not a critical road and it doesn't require, if it doesn't rise to the need or the demand to condemn it, we're probably not going to do that. So we still have an outstanding road from our last list, Gosnell Hutto, that needs to be. We're still working on signatures for that, and we're still getting them though. They're coming in. My point is DOT will caution us that, or not. I don't want to use the word caution, but they encourage us to try to keep some balance in the amount of miles that you take out off the county's digest and the ones that you put on. We receive some level of funding for those roads that are adopted. So monetarily, it'd be ideal just to zero that out, have the same distance. That's not an exercise we try to do, but it's something to be considered. So this time it looks like we're banning for adopting too. We'll see if the property owners still want to do that. But that's the decision. And I encourage you, if you don't know where these roads are, if you haven't looked at them or driven them or whatever, it's worth the drive. I'd still get out to South Creek. It hasn't been completed yet. And it's probably the next on our list to go out and completely grade and widen and do all the work that's necessary there. So with that, are there any questions or other comments from the commissioners on the roads to be adopted or abandoned? And again, no action tonight on that.
I would just remind people if they have an issue, concern, opposition, please let us know. Let Ms. Rhonda, our clerk, know so she can pass it along. Anything like that. But like I said, most time these type things are, the people on the road want it, and it does. We always check with our emergency services to make sure that we're not cutting off people and things like that. So anyway, if anybody has any information, we sure would like to hear it.
I guess I'd say too, these roads like Wesley Chapel, that can't happen anymore. The way a developer went in and cut a road, and so now it's done properly, and they will have a good road in and out.
And again, and that is the trend here, is there's still a number of subdivisions that were established, and that wasn't required back then. And now the collective community owns that road, but they'll look to the county for assistance on that. So, I would point to two roads that were just approved under LMIG, Kellogg and West Kellogg Drive. A lot of houses huddled in over in those areas. I don't know that was, certainly wouldn't blame anybody, but that, you just got to know you can't have that kind of traffic in that area and not tear up those roads. You just can't. And we have two semi over the road haulers on those roads too. So they get a little extra treatment. All right.
On the abandonments, or
Yes.
on the abandoned roads, proposed abandoned roads, I should say, is there any concern that any action that we take, does it put, even though it may be a one property owner or whatnot, is there any utilities or anything that seem to be in a county road that now need to be reverted to a private easement per that utility? I'm just trying to make sure I understand that.
Yeah.
I don't want us to take an action and
No, and that
then
is
somebody.
that's part of the due diligence here too. And first and foremost is to identify those roads. And I've asked, and all 6 of these roads that have been mentioned have been vetted through our road department. And the answer to your question is, I'm not 100% sure on that, but there are certain actions, there are certain revelations that would be roadblocks to these things. So again, between now and the time we meet next on this, that as far as this just being an opportunity to discuss and identify these roads publicly, and the work at hand is to make sure that we're not doing that we're not, taking.
We're just not inadvertently.
Yeah, we have people that want us to adopt a road, but they really don't want us to touch their red tip, whatever out there growing, and it's tough. It's just really tough to accommodate. So, and that has to be explained, because that is the person that'll change their mind.
Yep.
And I'd rather not go to the effort, and our attorney will be about the process of notifying all adjacent property owners as part of a public notice. That won't happen until after our next meeting, though. Is that correct?
Well, that's what I was going to ask, is what's this, because we've got to have a public hearing and then the vote. We usually do that at the same meeting, public hearing followed by the vote. But before that, I've got to get that written notice to each property owner by mail and also publish in the paper twice. So
we have time between now and our next meeting to do that, if it's the board's desire to have him put that in there for a vote next meeting. Otherwise, you'll vote next meeting
to initiate
the process. So I just want, I want that to be clear. And again, we're not trying to rush there's nothing about wanting to rush this process. These roads have been identified. Some of these have been identified for 2 years. They just haven't risen to the, to the level of, some of them haven't had the support behind either abandoning or adopting them. So that would be something I would look for the board to let us know tonight, if they want to let the 26th October meeting be a initiating point for the abandonment and adoption process. Does that sound okay with everybody?
Okay.
Does that sound okay? And what it'll actually do is it'll give us the opportunity to go back, check what you've mentioned. Okay.
And I want to check some property owners with you too, so they'll give me a chance to do that.
Okay. No, very good. Very good. Very good. All right. Is there anything from the commissioners regarding agenda item number 6? If not, we'll go into roads update. Are there anything that we need to be aware of that we're perhaps not aware of?
Chairman, I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but the culvert on Pleasant Acre Farms Road, there's a dip right there where that culvert is. And I was just wanting, I meant to take Derek over there the other day when I was with him, and we didn't have time. And if you could get him to look at that and see if there's something that needs to be done. He knows about all my other requests.
Okay, Pleasant Acre Farm Road. Got it.
John, if you want me to speak on Pleasant Acres Farm Road, that's already out for bid. We have already awarded that to All About Asphalt to get resurfaced right there. So that's already in the works.
No. that's-
Always make me look good.
Yeah, no, thank you. Hey, Alan, since you piped in, can you just give me an update real quick on Crabapple Hollow, what you were sharing with me as far as the timeline?
Crabapple Hollow box culvert. It's going to be an 8x8 box culvert. It has been ordered. It's about 4 to 6 weeks out, but that is definitely one. Hopefully we won't have no rain that washes that out before then, but it is getting close to one white line. So we're keeping a real close eye on it and everything just to make sure it stays passable till we get that in and everything.
Appreciate that, Alan.
Thank you, Alan. Any other updates or any other items we need to be looking at?
Well, thank Alan for getting that 911 sign for me on Floyd Road. I got a picture of it sitting there all pretty. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Any urgent matters? Executive session.
No, sir.
All right, all right. With that, then all I need is a motion to adjourn and we'll be out of
So
here.
moved.
I have a motion to adjourn. Thank you all. We're adjourned. Have a pleasant evening. Thank you for joining us too.